This is Tom Fox. I'd like to welcome you to the newest addition to the Compliance Podcast Network, the Compliance Tip of the Day. This is the podcast where we bring you daily insights and practical advice on navigating the ever-evolving landscape of compliance requirements. Whether you're a seasoned compliance professional or just starting your journey, my aim in this podcast is to provide you with a bite-sized, actionable tip to help you stay on top of your compliance game. Join us as we explore the latest trends from the Department of Justice, share some best practices, demystify complex compliance issues to help keep your organization doing business ethically and in compliance, and at the end of the day, more profitably. Tune in daily for your dose of compliance wisdom. Let's make compliance a little less daunting, one tip at a time. Now a word from the sponsor of the Compliance Podcast Network, Ethico.
If you're a compliance officer, middle managers are crucial in getting your programs from you to your frontline employees. But how do we activate those managers and get them on our side? Ethico's new Middle Manager Toolkit equips you with the skills needed to empower your managers, to promote a culture where ethical behavior thrives and employees feel empowered to speak up. Learn how to turn frontline managers into ethical leaders with our new white paper, Empowering Middle Managers as Ethics Champions. And did I mention you can get the whole toolkit for free? Head to ethico.com to download the full toolkit today.
Also, if you are looking for something new and different for the upcoming Compliance Week celebration in November, check out The Compliance Kids. It's my 3-book children's series on compliance and compliance professionals for children. But they make great gifts and great training tools for your employees. You can check it out on Amazon.com. We've linked to it in the show notes. Today's tip is something near and dear to my heart, which of course is podcasting. Have you thought about podcasting for compliance training? Well, if not, I would urge you to do so. There's a variety of reasons, not the least of which employees find information obtained through a podcast is something that is generally viewed as a positive and pleasurable experience. It's the audio format that brings a greater level of trust. Well, what can you have for your compliance training in podcasting? Well, the easiest would be a daily compliance news. Why? Because it keeps compliance and the impact of compliance violations, including fraud and corruption, in front of mind of employees. You could talk about how other companies got into trouble or whatever the news might be about fraud, corruption, money laundering violations, export control violations, or other. If you need some specific topics, you can simply listen to my podcast of the Daily Compliance News. It posts at midnight every day. So when you got up in the morning, you could use that as part of your training. But you could tell stories about compliance in your company, how employees were able to use the compliance function to manage high risk and manage it in a way that allowed you to have more effective compliance, greater business efficiency in the risk management process, leading, of course, to greater profitability and ROI. If you have a podcast, you have something that is clearly auditable, and it demonstrates to the Department of Justice how you are on literally the cutting edge of innovation when it comes to compliance training. You could do a series on some type of compliance issues. You could look at various corruption cases. You could go through your code of conduct or other parts of your compliance program and have employees talk about how they actually use those and how they interacted with the compliance function. Lastly, you could have your senior management come on and deliver a message as an ambassador for compliance and ethics for the company. The great thing about podcasting is you're only limited by your imagination. This is something you can do internally at low cost or no cost. As I said in the opening of this podcast, this month's sponsor of the entire Compliance Podcast Network is Ethico, and they've developed a toolkit for middle managers that will help middle managers in intaking information from employees and, equally importantly, understanding how to respond and how to get the information up to compliance for the decision makers. We've linked to this toolkit in our show notes, so check it out at ethico.com. This is Tom Fox again. This new podcast, Compliance Tip of the Day, will appear daily, and frankly, it's one of the most requested topics for a podcast that I get on a regular basis. It's going to be short and sweet with one tip with some takeaways that you can utilize to implement into your compliance program. If you've got a question that you would like a tip on, please submit them through our website, and we will use them in an upcoming episode. The compliance tip of the day is a production of the award-winning Compliance Podcast Network.